The Plagal Cadence, also sometimes called the Amen Cadence, has an unmistakable sound which underlies rock music like no other. Put simply, it is a harmonic motion which moves from the subdominant degree of a scale to its root, or tonic. In the key of C major, this means the motion from F major to C major. In this video, I will explain precisely what the Plagal Cadence is, how to construct it, and show you the far-reaching consequences this seemingly simple chord progression might have for your own music and playing. I'll conclude with a demonstration, a snippet of which you've heard at the beginning of the video, which will put all of these ideas together in a musical context. Let's get started. To explain the Plagal Cadence, we'll start by looking at a simple C major scale, which is made of the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and back to C. We call the successive notes on the scale degrees. The first degree is C, the second is D, the third is E, and so forth. We can now build a chord on the first note, or the first degree C, by taking the first, third, and fifth degrees from the C major scale. This gives us C, E, and G. And this chord is the C major chord. By moving this shape up the scale, we get different chords: D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, and finally back to C major. The Plagal Cadence is a motion by which the chord built on the fourth degree resolves to the chord built on the first degree. In our case, this will be an F major resolving to a C major. That's really all there is to it. Let's have a listen to how it sounds. The degrees have different names: the tonic, supertonic, mediant, subdominant, dominant, submediant, and leading tone. So another way to describe the Plagal Cadence is a chord progression in which the subdominant resolves to the tonic. This cadence, or progression, underlies a ton of rock and pop songs, ranging from The Who's Pinball Wizard and Baba O'Reilly, Queen's Hammer to Fall, Tina Turner's Simply the Best, The Talking Heads' Once in a Lifetime, The Eagles' Hotel California, and countless others. A simple but powerful idea consists of chaining together Plagal cadences. The Plagal Cadence in C major consists of F major leading into C major. In the key of F major, however, the Plagal Cadence consists of the fourth degree, which is B flat major, leading into the chord built on the first degree, which is F major. You can see this if you construct the F major scale and realize that the chord built on the fourth degree is B flat major, and the chord built on the tonic is, unsurprisingly, F major. If we chain the two Plagal cadences together, we obtain a chord progression with three chords: B flat leading into F major, and then F major leading into C major. This ubiquitous sound can be heard on many songs, for example U2's The Real Thing, on Solomon Burke's Everybody Needs Somebody to Love, later made famous by the Blues Brothers, the Spencer Davis Group's Give Me Some Lovin', and the intro to Guns N' Roses' Paradise City. There is no reason not to continue this line of reasoning indefinitely. The Plagal Cadence in the key of B flat major is E flat major leading into B flat major. The next one in turn is A flat major leading into E flat major, and so on and so on. For example, chaining 4 such progressions in a row, we end up with the following progression: A flat major to E flat major to B flat major to F major to C major. You might recognize this from the Time Warp song if you've ever watched the Rocky Horror Picture Show. or maybe Seal's Kiss to a Rose, which makes use of this sort of progression. If we continue with this line of thinking, we will end up with a progression of notes, or chords, a perfect fourth from each other. Because moving a perfect fourth down is the same as moving a perfect fifth up and vice versa, this succession of notes is also called the circle of fifths, and it is a fantastic way to memorize and work on plagal cadences. One interesting observation is that repeated plagal cadences often tolerate quite well the removal of one of the steps. For example, starting from E flat major to B flat major to F major to C major, we can omit the F major in the middle and obtain the progression E flat major to B flat major to C major. This progression underlies, for example, the ending of You Never Give Me Your Money from the Beatles. If we omit the B flat, we obtain the following progression. Again, this is a kind of progression that pops up in many songs, such as Guns N' Roses' Estranged, albeit in the key of G flat major, where the progression takes place from an A major to a B major to a G flat major. The chords in the plagal cadence can also be minor. For example, in the key of C major, instead of playing F major leading into a C major, we can play an F minor leading into a C major. Turning the fourth degree into a minor chord gives a very regal sound. Again, we can change such progressions together. Because the plagal cadence shifts the tonal center or the key of the song momentarily in the mind of the listener, you can chain together different keys that are not necessarily strongly related. For example, the use of minor fourths also opens up an interesting connection between the plagal cadence and what's known as the perfect cadence, which in the key of C consists of F major leading into G major leading into C major. It is in fact quite common to substitute the minor fourth for the dominant fifth degree. So the substituted progression would look like F major leading into F minor leading into C major. So F minor leading into C major can be either thought of as a plagal cadence or as a perfect cadence because of the dual role of F minor. Let's start the next concept by chaining together a succession of plagal cadences, starting at A flat major and eventually resolving to C major. It's interesting to note that the arrows aren't strictly necessary. If we group these 5 chords together, it turns out that we can move between them freely and still get a pretty sounding good chord progression. This lets us think of these chords as constituting what I'd like to call a plagal family. This is not a formal music theory term, but it's one that helps view these chords not in a sequential order, but as a collection you can choose from to create interesting harmonic chord progressions in your own music. An interesting combination can be had by playing a Plagal cadence but rethinking the bass note, or vice versa. Playing a Plagal cadence in the bass but rethinking the chords on top. Let me show you what I mean. Let's take the simple progression, E flat to B flat to F to C, all being major chords. Let's now mix things up a little. I'll delay the bass by one chord, so to speak, and play B flat major in the right hand over a bass of E flat in the left hand, F major in the right hand over a bass of B flat in the left hand, and then C major. The slash notation on screen indicates the right hand chord first, followed by the bass after the slash symbol. You can hear this creates an interesting tension in the progression. Part of why this works is that the bass is shifted by a perfect fourth relative to the chord in the right hand. In general, chords within the Plagal family mix well with bass notes from other chords within the Plagal family. For example, I'm playing a Plagal sequence here in the right hand, but a climbing bass in the left hand. Here's another such example. I urge you to play around with these combinations within the Plagal family and see what sort of interesting tensions and resolutions you might create. The last idea I'll talk about is using relative minors. Any major chord is directly related to a minor chord which is 3 semitones below it, which is called its relative minor. For example, the relative minor of C major is A minor. These chord pairs share two notes, which make them very similar to each other in terms of the sound. C major is comprised of C, E, and G, while A minor is comprised of A, C, and E. Two other examples are that the relative minor of B flat major is G minor, and the relative minor of F major is D minor. A general rule is that a major chord can often be substituted by its relative minor and vice versa. Let's see how this works in the context of Plagal progressions. We start from a basic Plagal progression. Next, we substitute D minor for F major. This gives a similar but slightly different sound for you to explore. As another example, consider the following progression. Here we can switch the B flat major to its relative minor, which is G minor. You can play around with this idea to get a more refined, slightly less crisp version of the Plagal cadence. This is definitely a sound that you should experiment with. We've covered different ideas about the Plagal cadence in this video. I'd like to conclude it by playing a short arrangement I've made for you, which combines all of these ideas within musical context. I hope you will enjoy it and that you've learned something interesting, and I'll see you next time.